Over the weekend, a UFC fighter bit his opponent on the bicep, got cut, lost his contract. I have not heard about anything like this happening since Tyson versus Holyfield. Let's talk about this, what happened, and this whole crazy event. Our partner for today's episode is XMartial. I don't think anybody is doing as much for the fight community as these guys right now. They are literally in a motorhome touring across North America, stopping at gyms, giving gear to kids, to people, spreading the love. If you guys are looking for any new gear, you have to check them out. Fun apparel, interesting designs. Link is in the bio. Save 10% with my promo code GABRIELVARGA. So a lot of times on Sunday, I go back and I check, oh, what happened with the fights last night? And sometimes it's like, oh, there was this spectacular KO or this other wild thing happened. But I have not been following everything in the fight world long enough, because I was a little kid when Tyson Holyfield went down. I wasn't following it back then. And since that time, I've never heard of somebody biting somebody else. Maybe it's happened and I just missed it, but it's something where I went, whoa, that's odd. And then I went on and I watched and sort of saw what happened. And the crazy thing is, after talking to a number of people about why this guy might have bit his opponent, they went, it was really odd because he was winning. And I was expecting that he was frustrated, he was losing, kind of like when Tyson was fighting Holyfield. Things weren't going his way, there was a little bit of head pushing, there were things that were frustrating him. But when you're winning the fight, it's kind of like, why would you do that? And keep in mind, both these guys, it was apparently their UFC debuts. So the biter has his opponent sort of against the cage, has his head down low, I guess head tucked in, and gets that little chunk. Just you actually see the indent of the teeth marks there. And after, when he was taken back to his corner, they're like, look, we have to look at what we're going to do here. We're going to deduct a point, or we're going to stop the fight. He was, no, I didn't bite him. And whether he was lying or somehow in the moment, he was just there, and it just kind of happened, like the animalistic urge to defend yourself or to finish the fight, whatever it was, took over. That's a real possibility. Maybe that happens for some people. I've never experienced that in a fight where I feel like the logical side of my brain sort of runs away and now it's very animalistic. I try to avoid that. It's never happened, but maybe in this moment that went down. The really funny part to me though, the part that made this story interesting, that made me want to cover it on the channel, was the fact that when the guy who got bit, when he gets his victory, he lifts up his arm and he shows everybody to the camera, like, look at, I actually have a bite mark. And by the way, I think that disqualifying somebody for this is appropriate. You could be like, oh yeah, he could still fight, but that is such a blatant foul that right away, that guy should not be allowed to compete anymore. So yeah, with that out of the way, this guy has this bite mark. And then what does he do after the fight? He goes and gets it tattooed. Hopefully first he got it checked, make sure the skin didn't get penetrated, maybe got a tetanus shot, whatever else you need. And then he goes and gets tattoos and says, I was bit here. What happens after that? Dana White sees it. Dana White takes his bonus, which is apparently gonna be 25 grand, which is a nice little chunk of change for, I mean, no pun intended, for a chunk of your arm being taken off. Not actually, it didn't look like he penetrated through the skin. But anyway, he ups it from 25,000 to 50,000. I think that's the first time I can think of where somebody's actually made money. Went up 25 grand for getting a tattoo. And the whole event honestly just confuses me, because like I said, if you were losing, you just lost it, or the guy was continually fouling you and for some reason you just snapped, yeah, I'd be like, okay, I kind of see it. But this, when you're winning and the situation that he was in, he had his opponent's back, there was no reason for him to be angry in that moment. So maybe something just did a little switch, and he just wasn't able to think about his actions, the repercussion that would come from it. Odd, no doubt, something you don't usually see on Sunday morning when you wake up and you're looking, oh, what happened in the UFC last night? But definitely worth covering on the channel. Emotions play so much in fights, and when you can master your emotions, learn to crush down all those other things, the fear, maybe the anger, the rage that you get when somebody clips you really hard, when you can condense all that, then you start thinking very logically. When you can do that, you become more like Floyd Mayweather, Georgia Petrosian, George St. Pierre, these legends in the sport, which you never see them lose their cool. They are focused and they're able to do what they want to do. They can hear their corner, they can take instructions. All of that helps you become a great fighter. We want to avoid things like giving in to our urges to bite somebody or to do something that's illegal, obviously, because this is devastating for this guy's career. You finally get into the UFC and now you've been booted out. You didn't even get a chance to really be like, oh, how good am I? It's just gone like that. I do feel a little bummed out for the guy in that aspect, but also for the dude who got bit. That's not cool either. So let's call it there. I just thought this was a fun story to share with you guys today. We have started our Strike Ready, the ultimate guide to defense course. It began today. Everybody who joined has an email in their inbox, the ability to go through and watch all the videos from the first week. If you missed out on this course, don't worry. I'm gonna have another one later in the year. You can still head over to Varga Combat and get yourself registered so you're notified when the next course comes out, and it's gonna be a fun one. First one was defense. You know, not quite as sexy, not quite as cool. The next one is gonna be pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys when there's a chance. As always, everybody, thank you for joining me and train hard. I will see you back here soon for another video.